I think you have to be careful with licensing. And so, many, many moons ago, Gucci was one of the most exclusive and best brands in the world, and they went through a time around the 80s where the brand really fell off. Essentially, management had taken to licensing the brand out to a lot of different people. Pretty soon you saw keychains, you saw belts, you saw a lot of sort of like tchotchkes, you saw a lot of sort of cheap goods that were made by licensing. So if you have a brand that is trying to be exclusive, it's extremely hard to do licensing in a thoughtful way. And so if you see a brand that's trying to be exclusive, that has a huge percentage of the revenue coming from licensing, that your alarm bell should go off. You should be very, very careful about how that business manages it. The best time for licensing is when you license your brand to a very good operator who's knowledgeable about that, but has a very technical ability to do something that you can't do yourself. And so, the best example I can think of off the top of my head is Luxottica, right? They have they manufacture sunglasses and glasses in general. And so if you're Gucci or Louis Vuitton or these high-end brands and you want to make sunglasses are just extremely hard to make. It's a very technical expertise that you want to be thoughtful about, that you just would make no economic sense for you to do it yourself. So you would then license out the manufacturing, the distribution of that to somebody else, especially if that company is aware to not saturate your brand in the wrong places. You see that with fragrance a lot. And so brands that sort of want to license out their scents and scents, creating a scent is just so extremely complicated compared to, say, making a dress. And so companies that have a trusted partner to license those brands, you can see success. There are some times at the lower end where you can see it be relatively successful. Gap is a company that has licensed its brand in an almost like a quasi-franchise model in developing countries. And so you see a lot of companies that, they don't know the local real estate person, they don't know the rules, right? And so it's extremely complicated to say if you're, in New York or in San Francisco and you want to create 10 stores in Malaysia, it's just really hard to do that. Which lawyer do you call? Which mall is the best mall? And so it's easier to find those relationships, people that know the local people, that know how to do that. And that's when licensing is at its best. It's when it is done with a limited number of a handful of partners, but wholesale licensing is something that you have to be careful about. From an economic standpoint, it's great, of course. It's pure margin, and you can see phenomenal returns of capital on that business. And so a company that is starting to license out its brand carefully, you can see pretty attractive economics from that. But you just have to be careful that no one does it, that someone doesn't do a huge percent of their brand to a lot of different types of licensees.